My name's Sean O'Callaghan, Cornelius Sean O'Callaghan, born in Sri Lanka, then Ceylon. In the early 70s we moved back to England, and my uncle, who was also out in the tea estates, planted a small vineyard near Somerset, in Somerset near Bath, a place called Castle Carey, a couple of hectares, tiny project. Went on for a few years, but I was at boarding school, and when I left boarding school, about 18, he had a connection in a little tiny village in the Nahe, Riesling area, and he said, why don't you go and see that, go on holiday, see what you think. So I ended up working in a small winery, and then moved on to a next door winery called Schloss Deal, which has now become pretty well known. And it had just been taken over by Armin Deal, who's Ugo Deal's son, and he was restructuring everything into much more of a high quality, high-end Riesling producer. They had some incredible, very steep slope vineyards, which I learned to prune and do all the things I was meant to do there, drive tractors and stuff, and then in the cellar. I just loved the world. So I loved the whole background of being inside and outside, and then every vintage was different. And then I found right across the river, so the Nahe River flows into the Rhine, and just on the border is Bingen, and then there's a ferry which takes you across to Rudesheim and Geisenheim on the other side. And in Geisenheim there was this, I found out there was a world famous university, Fachhochschule for wine and viticulture and enology. And I managed to get through the first year of maths and physics and chemistry and all that stuff, and then in the second year we started talking about wine. So it took me 4 years rather than 3 years because of probably the language stuff. Yeah, that was where I ended up working in various small wineries in the Rheingau, including Georg Breuer and Weil and all these people. Just getting, when you're doing picking and harvesting and stuff, so getting a bit of background, a bit more background rather than the work I'd done at Deal. When I finished, I handed in my thesis, and I got in a beaten up old Golf and drove down to Tuscany on holiday. And I really wanted to talk to people about all the knowledge I had just gained from studying for 4 years. I'd read about this guy called John Dunkley in a Decanter magazine, and so I rang him up and we went to have a chat. Love at first sight. We were going like a house on fire. He offered me a job, and I went back to Germany. Didn't work out immediately. I then had to do 89 and 90 vintage. I became the winemaker at Deal, at Schloss Deal, which was a great experience because 89 and 90 were two amazing vintages. So I was playing around with incredible Riesling from these incredible vineyards. And then I got the call back from John Dunkley, said, why don't you come in March? So March 91, I turned up in Tuscany, thinking that it would probably just be, 1 year, a couple of years. It ended up being 26 at Riecene. I worked with John through from 91 through until 96, 97. And then John decided to pass the winery on to an American gentleman called Gary Bauman, and we moved the winery ahead a step. We built a cellar, the first phase of the cellar we built and moved it on, and then he decided to sell in 2012 to a Russian couple, and that's when I decided just to sort of time to move on and do something different. And I'd met this really fun family who was connected to the architect who was building the cellar at Riecene, and we got in touch, and we sort of got on really well as friends. And then he had 3 hectares of vineyard next to one of the houses he was building, right opposite Montevertine in Radda. And he said, why don't we do a joint project? That's how Tenuta di Carleone started. It started basically in 2015, 16. And I quickly set up a cellar in an old garage, which we rented. 2 cellars actually, and two garages. And so it's slowly gone ahead from there. So that's how it started.